The absolutely insane meteoric rise of AbsentPage over the last couple of years should serve as a shining beacon of hope for any up-and-coming player who thinks there's no way they could ever surpass players who've been playing Melee for over 10 years. In just under 4 years of playing the game, he's gone from going 0-2 at locals to potentially being a top 30 player. So has AbsentPage done enough this year to warrant a top 30 spot? That's what I'm here to find out. To do this, we're going to get a quick overview of his performances at the 5 major events he's attended so far this year, and then compare his results at these events to other top 30 contenders to see if he deserves the spot. But before we jump into AbsentPage's Genesis 5 performance, I just want to mention his insane consistency at the local level. In just 4 months, AbsentPage has entered 39 smaller events and has gotten first place at every single one of them. To be fair, Minnesota is quite a weak region, but the dedication and consistency required to win this many events in such a small period of time is still quite commendable. But without further ado, let's talk about AbsentPage's lowest placing so far this year. Genesis 5. His 49th placing was a pretty uninteresting performance as a whole that gave him his worst loss of the year in a close set against Ladandis and not much else. But his performance 2 months and 22 locals later at Full Bloom 4 was a completely different story. After losing a close set to Ginger in semifinals of pools, AbsentPage went on a tear through losers that was ended by Amsa, who is easily one of 2018's hottest players so far. His amazing showing at Full Bloom 4 was followed by a fairly run-of-the-mill 4th place finish at Fight Pitt 8, which wasn't stacked that heavily with talent. He was able to add another one of MDVA's strongest players to his resume here, before being double eliminated by Santi, who's another player who is quickly climbing the ranks. And closing off AbsentPage's resume is a pair of large regionals that happened on the same weekend, Gemini and the Scarlet Classic. First at Gemini on Saturday, AbsentPage took the recently struggling La Luna down one more peg by taking a victory over his Marth, but he was double eliminated to take 4th place yet again. But AbsentPage took what he learned on Saturday against Rishi and used it not only to beat him at the Scarlet Classic, but Swedish Delight and Crush as well, both of which are immensely valuable wins to have. His streak of being double eliminated by the same player continued on for the 3rd major event in a row, but with wins like these, I don't think he was too concerned about it. So now that we've recapped AbsentPage's amazing year so far, let's get to the video's titular question. Has AbsentPage jumped at least 44 ranks from the end of 2017 to become a top 30 player? To determine this, we have to compare his results with the current top talent and see if we are able to find at least 30 players that could currently be considered better than him. Thankfully, the Melee Stats team recently put together a top 25 power rankings that considered the last 4 months, so that gives us an excellent jumping off point so that we don't have to compare AbsentPage to 30 individual players. So for a starting point, let's compare AbsentPage's results to the 25th and 26th ranked players on the power ranking, Cyrox and La Luna. It's important to keep in mind with these two comparisons, and any ones moving forward, that AbsentPage has attended many more events than most players so far this year, so obviously he's going to have much better resume depth than most of these other players. What you need to do to effectively compare two players' ranks in Melee is to look at what results they do have and see what kind of picture it creates for each player. For example, Cyrox shows with a win over SVET that he has the talent to actually be able to beat top 10 players, which is an ability very few active players have. His only bad loss is to Kalamazoo, who's been on a bit of a hot streak lately, and who he also has a win over, which helps ease the pain of that loss a bit. So with just these simple things in mind, I currently think Cyrox is clearly a better player than AbsentPage. I also think this is the case with La Luna, even with his struggles lately. He has had some bad losses lately to players like Rocky and Legend, but his wins against players that are currently in the top 25, like Hugs, West, and KJH, have helped slow down his fall out of the top 20. He also is currently leaning a lot on his 19th rank from last year that has a lot to do with his top 8 finish at EVO, so if he doesn't start to turn around his performances as we move further and further from that event, we could very realistically see AbsentPage pass him. That then leaves us to find 4 more players that have had better results this year than AbsentPage. Ginger is the obvious choice for 27th, with his amazing win over Axe, but finding other players to fill out 28, 29, and 30 is a whole lot harder. The results of players like Army, DizKid Boogie, Hax, Jerry, Chudat, and Mike Hayes either had too many bad losses, did not have enough solid wins, or had a combination of the two. Captain Smuckers and Santiago were the 2 players that stood out amongst the rest, but Smuckers' recent loss to Robotic Fish made me a little too skeptical to include him. So then let's compare AbsentPage's year so far to Ginger's and Santi's. Ginger does have some suspect losses to Abate, Cal, and Ty, but his win against Axe more than makes up for that with just how impressive pulling that off is. With that being said, Ginger over AbsentPage is a clear choice for me. Santiago versus AbsentPage is much less cut and dry, however. Santi has the cleanest looking resume out of any of the 5 players we have looked at so far, as he has Lod as his worst loss, which is absolutely incredible. And at first glance you might say that he is about the same caliber wins as AbsentPage, but I don't think that's quite the case. The 4 players that Santi has beaten in the 11 to 30 category have all been struggling hard lately, whereas the 4 players that AbsentPage has beaten in the same category are all currently considered top 25. So because of that, I think I would currently put AbsentPage as 28th best in the world, but I totally understand the argument people might have for putting Santi or even Smuckers above him. But even with the slight variance that may exist between people's opinions, I think it would be hard for most to not agree that AbsentPage is currently a top 30 player. And yeah, that's about it for this video. I'd love to hear down in the comments where you think AbsentPage ranks, especially if you don't think he's in the top 30, and I'd love to hear which 5 or 6 players you'd put in that 25 gap, or if you don't agree with the top 25 that Melee Stats and I put out for our ranking. I'm very interested to hear people with dissenting opinions. One, because I feel like you learn a lot more from seeing something from another perspective, but just looking at the players, I couldn't find anyone besides Santi or Smuckers that I could realistically see above AbsentPage. He's just had such an incredible year, and I'm honestly so happy to see him succeed, and hopefully we see him take some more top 10 wins. Maybe he beats Amza, maybe he learns that matchup. It would be so dope to see him just keep going, getting better and better. And before I end off this video, I haven't done in a while, I want to give a huge thanks to all my Patreons: Blair Alexander, Jesse Gardner, Nathan Simon, good old Edwin from the podcast, Sam Wright, Nick Fade, Daniel Gilbert, Grant Mercer, and Caleb. Thank you guys so much for supporting me on Patreon. I really appreciate it. It means so much to me that you guys enjoy these videos so much that you would actually give me money to see them. It's so wild that you would do such a thing, as demeaning to myself as that sounds. But if you guys are interested, you don't already support me on Patreon, there's a link down below. You'll get videos early, you'll get vote on video topics and other stuff. Sometimes I post some of my Excel sheets over there and other mini cool tiny little things like that. So if that sounds like something you'd be interested, click the link down in the description. And I think that's about it. I've been SaveAsUntitled. I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I will see you guys next time.